Last class, we understood what is decision tree all about, how exactly you can implement a decision tree when you have multiple nested if conditions. You can use this to evaluate, and whatever result gets returned using that, we navigated our user flow. We configured this decision tree on a decision shape in flow, and then based on the outcome of this decision tree, we were choosing a path. Either it was personal vehicle or commercial vehicle is what we chose. That was a really interesting exercise which we did yesterday. Perfect. So now going one step further in what we are trying to accomplish as part of this Pega training. The next rule which I want you to focus on is called as circumstancing. Circumstance rule in Pega. So before we start here, let us understand what is a circumstance. Circumstance is a situation because of some condition. For example, I commute to, let's say, my college every day and I'm using my bike to reach college. And one fine day, it's raining. So based on these circumstance, I try to take car. Yes or no? Is it a valid justification for circumstance? Based on that condition, the condition is raining, because of which I'm taking my car. So that is a circumstance. Though the objective is same, you're traveling, irrespective of what is happening, you're traveling. But the only thing is to travel, you are using bike or car based on the circumstance. If the weather is good, you're saying I'm going by bike. If the weather is bad, for example, it's raining, you're going by car. Does it give you understanding of what is circumstance? Going to college by bike if the weather is fair. Going to college by car if it is raining. This is circumstance, right? Based on circumstance, your decision or the travel mode is changing. Yes or no? Changing based on condition, right? That's what we are trying to do here as part of our travel to college. Now, in Pega also, there are scenarios where you will need these sort of rules. The rule is called as circumstance. And on few rules, where especially the UI rules and the business logic rules, we will use this circumstancing technique based on property. Uh, in this, in the circumstance technique, we will use, you know, based on some property, or on a single property or a template is what we are going to use. We'll use a property to define it. Okay, and basically to configure UI and business logic rules. So there are two types of circumstancing in Pega. One is uh, two types of circumstance rules in Pega. One is called as single property based. Property could be a property and a date, something like that. I'll show you. Another one is multiple property. What we are saying here is, could be you're traveling only if the weather is unfair, then you will be traveling by bike. Is what, sorry, by car is what you're saying. When we say multiple property, for example, if the weather is not fair and your bike is also not having air pressure, so there are two properties. So multiple property will be something like that, and we can define a template for that. We will see that practically how we can do it. We'll see it with our runtime application which we are going to implement. So to go further, the example I want to take here is similarly exactly for decision tree. What did we do? We told the insurance type, if it is CV, go for commercial vehicle. If it's PV, go for personal vehicle. We'll also take the same example and try to implement based on the commercial vehicle or personal vehicle, how exactly we can use a circumstance rule based on what option a user chooses. For example, if user chooses CV, the UI should show commercial vehicle CV section, commercial vehicle section, and vice versa. If he chooses personal vehicle, then he has to show personal vehicle section. So to achieve this requirement, exactly similar to decision tree, is what we are trying to implement the circumstance rule. So to do that, let me create a circumstance rule. So to do that, before I create that, I will need one additional flow action. Let me call it where is my Pega Studio? Okay, perfect. I'm back into my environment. I need one flow action for that. So in this flow action, I want to refer to what all flow actions do I have so far. Let me check that first. Flow action is a rule which holds the section. Yes or no? Do we agree? It holds it's a container for section flow action. We have been defining this and designing this for some time now. Now let me create another flow action. Right click, create. Okay, under work class. Uh, and just for understanding purpose, I'm creating a new flow action. I will call it auto. Let me call it auto vehicle FA. I'm calling this auto vehicle FA. Perfect. Under work class, perfect. Here I will create this as part of. This will be showing personal vehicle section. Perfect. Whenever the user chooses PV, we will be showing this particular section. Now consider this as a base rule. Whenever you go for circumstancing, you are trying to implement a base rule, like any day you will be going through bike. Okay, if there is a circumstance when it rained, then you want to go in some other way, some in car is what we are seeing. To do that, I configured my section here, personal vehicle section. Now uh, okay, let us also map this before we go further. So yesterday, if you remember, I created one additional flow, which was insurance flow. I don't want to modify that. I'll keep it as it is because that has my decision tree implementation. I'll go back to my customer flow. Customer flow. Here, I want to do some modification. Just remember that this is how the flow is looking today. Today, any user logs in, goes into customer information, fills the details, transaction information, personal vehicle information, address information. That's it. That's how the flow is. To this, I have created, to map here, I have created one flow action, auto vehicle flow action. Okay, auto vehicle flow action, and it is referring to personal vehicle section in this flow action. Remember this thing. Now, this is my base rule. This is my bike which I am going to use to drive every day. In case if it rains, I want to use car. To achieve that, if you just go to actions here, sorry, to save as here, do we see something called as specialized by circumstance? Yes, no. See, So all I have done here so far is created a flow action, referred the personal vehicle section, and I'm telling this will be my base rule, and I want to circumstance this thing in the sense I want to change, I want to call the same rule, same auto vehicle FA based on a certain circumstance in a certain situation, or when a certain condition is met, I want to call the same rule, but for a different, based on a different property. Let us see how we can do it. From the save, if you see this drop down, there is option to specialize by circumstance. Just click on that. This should give us the same flow action rule should appear for us. However, you can circumstance it. See, is the same name appearing here for the flow action? Auto vehicle flow action, right? Auto vehicle flow action. But if you come down, there is this section which is telling circumstance by template or circumstance by property and date is what it is asking. For now, let me choose property and date. Okay. Now, as soon as I say property and date, if you see the drop down changed here, it is showing property, what is the value you want, stuff like that. Let us say, what is the property based on which I want to show commercial vehicle? Insurance type. Yes or no? See, cancelling, coming back again. We are trying to understand what is circumstance all about, in the sense, in what circumstances can I call the same rule but in a different way? You're calling the same rule, we'll be calling the same rule, but it won't be the same rule because it is circumstance based on a property. If a certain property is set in the flow, we will be calling the same rule, but it is configured for a different view altogether. Let us see that. See, I'm just clicking on the save of that particular rule and telling specialize by circumstance is what I am choosing here. As soon as you choose that, you get the same rule, but you can specify based on what property. For example, here the property I want to circumstance this on is insurance type. Whenever the user chooses insurance type as CV, I want to call this particular rule. This particular circumstance rule has to be called. Does it make sense? And inside this flow action, which section should be mapped, guys? Should it be personal vehicle section when the user has chosen CV? What should be the section? Shouldn't that be commercial vehicle section? Yes or no? Right? Save this. Now, if you see auto vehicle FA, two rules are available. This is my base rule. This is my circumstance rule. Am I able to see that? This is circumstance based on property. Whenever the property type is set to CV, this rule has to be called. Why? Because this has this particular section. We want to show this. However, any other times other than this property being set to CV, if anything else is set, this is the base rule. By default, this will be called only when that property is set to CV. This particular rule will be called. Are we able to understand, guys? All we have done is created a flow action as a base rule and then saved as it to circumstance it based on commercial vehicle, and we are calling that here. Now we have configured this, but this has to be stitched to the UI, yes or no? We have to use this in UI somewhere. Right now, if you see our UI, we are not using this particular flow action anywhere because this is a new flow action we created. Yes or no? Perfect. We'll try to see that also. Right now, let's also identify. See, do we see this flow action here yet? Auto vehicle flow action. Are you able to see inside my work class? Not yet. Okay, let us refresh this and see if we are able to, you know, get anything different. Refresh work class, process, flow action. Now, do you see auto FA has a drop down sort of a thing? When I expand that, Do you see there is a base rule and there is a circumstance rule? Let us close this. The first rule you create will be the base rule, which doesn't have any circumstancing. On top of this, as soon as you do a save as based on circumstance, specialize it based on circumstance, that thing will appear here. Here, for example, you are seeing that this rule has been circumstance based on insurance type. When the insurance type is commercial vehicle, then this particular rule will be called. See, are you able to understand circumstancing, guys? Yes, no, perfect. So let's try to modify our flow also and see how exactly does the UI behave when we change that flow action. Okay, so we expanded, we saw that it is reflecting the latest changes. Now let us add this auto vehicle flow action to this flow. So in the transaction flow action, this is where we are selecting the insurance type, right? Commercial or personal. This is where we are selecting it. In this step, right now, if you see the flow action which is mapped is personal vehicle flow action. I don't want to use this. This is not circumstance. To verify my circumstancing, I want to use the circumstanced flow action, which is auto vehicle FA. Yes or no? And if you see, we are not passing anything here. We are not telling a circumstance rule or anything. We are just selecting by default whatever it is coming here. Auto vehicle if it is not showing you, oh, we have a circumstance one and non-circumstance. It is just normal auto vehicle flow action. We're just telling that. See this. We have just selected that, modified the flow action to the new flow action we created. FA, connector name, submit, save. Yesterday, we pretty much implemented a similar functionality, but we use a decision tree and a decision shape. Yes or no? Right? Kind of similar functionality we are able to achieve through circumstance also. Let us see if it is actually working that way or not. I'm creating a new work object. This should give me a new work object with this circumstancing working. So let us try to create one. Hold on. Vishwas. And I'll say male 25 India Karnataka, cities Mysore. Submit. This is where the next screen is where we will be choosing our personal vehicle or commercial vehicle. Right? Right now, based on whatever value we choose here, the corresponding screen should appear. Let us say I am choosing the commercial vehicle because I have circumstanced this based on the CV property, commercial vehicle property. I am choosing that. I will choose some agency code to maybe Bangalore. Okay, policy term. Okay, just to see everything is working perfect. Now when I submit, I should be able to see commercial vehicle section. Yes or no? Is this my commercial vehicle section, guys? See, sorry, user interface section, commercial vehicle section. This is the vehicles commercial vehicle section we designed yesterday, right? Where we told we will have a table with inline VIN, brand, model, make year. Same thing is coming. How is it coming? At runtime, Pega is deciding, oh, this particular flow action is circumstance. And right now, the value on which this is circumstance is commercial vehicle CV. That is being passed. So I should be calling the circumstanced rule. Is that happening here? Here you can add your details, whatever details you want to add. Same way, when we don't select personal vehicle, sorry, commercial vehicle, and if we choose personal vehicle, see what happens. Submit. Personal vehicle. Does it make sense, guys? Personal vehicle information is popping up here. Are we able to understand what is circumstancing, guys? Yes? No? Perfect. Based on property, we saw how to circumstance rule. We pretty much implemented the exact same thing we implemented yesterday. All that we did, the change was just saved as we created a flow action and then saved it like, for specialized it for circumstance and created it based on property. And then we were able to achieve the exact same thing which we implemented using the decision tree. Do we agree, guys? Yes, no? It is kind of like, for decision making, when you're designing your flow, you can utilize these rules. For example, the same section is being utilized for base customer, gold customer, platinum customer, silver customer, let us say. Based on the category, you can save as a given section based on the customer type. If he is gold, then show him these details. If he is silver, show him these details. If he is premier, this is show him these details. Can't we do stuff like that? Right? Yes or no? In most of your applications, you see that when you see, if you are, for example, if you access YouTube, same UI is being presented for YouTube premium guys also, but they see additional content. Why? In the circumstancing, can't you say this guy is a premium member? That is what they are doing. This has a logic. When the flow is running, and if you had, let us say, personal vehicle, commercial vehicle, and rental vehicle and more of other stuff, then the application will check this or this or this or this, whichever is qualifying, it will be showing that particular section. It has or logic, this or this or this or this, right? But this is, in a way, it is similar to decision tree, but not everything is similar to decision tree. For example, in a decision tree, you have to map it to a decision shape and stuff like that. Right now in this thing, we were able to see, using a property, we were able to circumstance this particular rule, and we saw how exactly it works. But when we tried to do a save as, we also saw another thing called as template. Yes or no? If you save as this guy again, you will see that, see, specialized by circumstance. If you click, it will give you a new. However, first it was showing us template, and then by property. We saw how to do it by property. There is another thing called as template. What is this? We'll try to understand this. Don't worry. So let me go to the records explorer. Let me cancel this for now. Okay. If I go to the technical category in my records explorer, there are two rules you will see here: circumstance template, circumstance definition. Are we able to see this, guys? Yes? No? If you have single property, if you have single property, then the approach which we took is fine. Whatever we saw, we had one property, we had to circumstance based on that. We were able to do that. But if you have multiple properties based on which you want to circumstance, then you will have to use circumstance template. Very important. How will you perform circumstancing when you have multiple properties? You have to use circumstance template. Does it make sense, guys? Yes? No? Let us try to create one and understand rather than just going through definitions. Let's create one and understand. All I will do is come to my work class, right click on technical category, click on create, and I should be able to create a circumstance template. Yes or no? This is how we have been creating rules so far. Do we agree? Same thing I'm trying to do here. Technical create a circumstance template for me is what I'm asking Pega to do. So ideally Pega has to deliver me a template rule. Closing the work objects. Discard. Perfect. So it gave me the form to give the name. So let me call it something, you know, mm, I think already ABC template. Okay, I'm creating a sample template. Let me create and open. This should give me, a configuration where can choose multiple properties instead of one single property. I should be able to circumstance the rule based on multiple properties. That is why we are using template. All we saw was we were able to do it based on one property. Insurance type is one single property based on which we were able to circumstance it. Yes or no? See this, guys. Click to view circumstance. See, circumstance based on one single property. Two types of circumstancing are there: single property based, multiple property based. We saw single property based. We saw that based on one property insurance type, the routing was happening. Now let us understand what is multiple property based. To understand that, we have to use circumstance template. I have created a sample template and I have received this form. Here I can give what all properties do I want to use as part of the circumstance template. Let us say insurance type is one. Also, I want the age to be certain to, use a certain rule. And maybe, do I have salary or something? I don't think so. I have salary. Okay. Okay. Let us say two properties is what I are sufficient for me. Or I can also tell gender. Okay. Save. Perfect. All I did here was so far what we have done: created one flow action, circumstanced it based on one property, added that to added that flow action on the flow, and saw the understood how a single property based circumstance works. After that, we came to technical category and we created a template where we have used three properties. We are telling we want to circumstance based on these properties. So these templates work in conjuncture with circumstance definition. In the sense, you have to use the definition and template together to circumstance when you are using template. So right click on technical category, click on definition, circumstance definition. What is circumstance definition? For properties, we are going to assign some conditions or values. That is done on the circumstance definition. What properties you are going to use, you will define it on the template. What values you are going to pass will be done in the circumstance definition. See, when I try to create a circumstance definition, again under technical category only, right click here, create, and see circumstance definition. Circumstance definition, circumstance template. Both are part of technical category. Understanding, guys? Yes, no, perfect. So I do have my template. Now I am proceeding ahead in creating the definition. I right click on technical category, created a definition. Let me call it ABC definition. Okay. And see, it asks you which template, based on which template do you want to create. There are some out of the box templates, but I want to use ABC template. The definition rule is asking you what template do you want to build this based on, in the sense, what values do you want to pass as part of this particular definition. I want to pass insurance type, I want to pass age and gender. Yes or no? Created, open. Now you should see three columns exactly similar to, like, decision table which we saw. Make sense, guys? See, here I can tell, for example, personal vehicle, age 25, gender, I will say male. I want to add another row. Just with this focus, I can say add below, or if CV 30 or 20 and female. Does it make sense, guys? How I am trying to refer it? Save this. Let us go back to our personal vehicle flow action, which we customized before. Let me open this guy. Now you will see, let us try to circumstance this. You know, this is not circumstance. We only circumstance auto vehicle FA. This particular flow action, personal vehicle FA is what circumstance. We just renamed it and we changed it to auto vehicle FA. We saved as this thing as auto vehicle FA and then we used it. But we literally we didn't do this. We didn't circumstances. So let me choose specialize by circumstance for this particular rule. And you will see the first thing which pops up is the template. Do you have a template to choose? Yes, I do have a template to choose, right? That is ABC template. And there is a definition also, right? ABC definition. Are we able to refer to the template and definition here, guys? Yes, no. Do you understand how exactly we can circumstance based on property and circumstance based on, you know, template and a definition? You will hardly use the template and the definition type, but still as part of, letting you know I'm sharing this knowledge. Mostly you will be using circumstance based on property and data. But when you are asked what sort of circumstances are available, yes, circumstancing is when you want to use the same rule, but based on certain conditions, we'll be using circumstancing rules. We can circumstance in two ways. One is based on a property, and another one is based on a circumstancing template where you can have a definition defined and you can utilize it. Was this understood, guys? Are we able to understand what exactly circumstancing is all about within Pega? Yes, no. Both of these guys come as part of technical category. Very important. Both of these rules come as part of technical category. You don't have to know the PXOBJ class, but still I will show you. Very hardly used. These rules are not very widely used, very hardly used. But you need to know, see, rule circumstance template. And for definition, it should be rule circumstance definition. That's what it should be. You can verify it. Very hardly used. But you need to know that these are the ways using which you can apply conditioning on rules. See, we saw that UI rules, based on the condition, the UI rules changed. You are pretty much on the same flow. Yes or no? But based on condition, the corresponding section is being called. Ultimately, we are calling the desired section by passing one specific value. Yes or no? We are showing the commercial vehicle section or personal vehicle section based on the property which is being set here. Yes or no, guys? Do we agree? Are we able to like contemplate? So this is how we will be utilizing. So far we have covered a decent amount of understanding with respect to Pega. Like, most of the rules which will help you get started in designing a flow is something which you already understood. We know how sections are configured. What are properties, page list properties, what is a flow, what is a flow action, what is a section, how exactly you can pull these properties together on a user interface and design something. Try to mimic anything which you are seeing around, some manual process which is happening. You should be able to build something like that locally. So on a personal level, you should start building from scratch application like we are doing here for auto insurance. You can build something which you are saying, for example, application which gives healthcare, a healthcare application or a inventory application or a HR leave application, something like that. Think of idea and start building it, you know, exactly similar. Start using the same rules, pretty much same UI. Don't worry about that. Or if not nothing, just follow what we are doing and implement the same thing. Build the same application. The same application you try to build by yourself. That is how you will be able to, advance further. Does it make sense, guys? Okay. So the next topic is on flow actions. I do want to start that, but I feel like, uh, that's okay. It's Sunday. I'll just let you go today, and then tomorrow we will, again catch up and try to complete as much as possible. I'm not doing too much. I'm just giving you whatever you can eat for a given day, so that you guys also get sufficient time to practice and, implement it on your local systems. So as part of this journey, I will also be going slightly further, like, advanced topics is also we'll be covering this time. There are new features which have come out. Those also is something which I'll be covering so that you guys can understand and implement them, and it will of course enrich your resume because you can put the familiarity of those rules as well. Thank you. If you guys don't have any questions, I think we can drop.